All right.
All right, let's go ahead and start. Nick, do you want to welcome everyone?
Yeah, I sure can. Just want to thank everybody for joining the first all-site weekly call. We're going to be scheduling these calls every week for the duration of the study, really to give specific updates, answer questions, talk about the different phases of the project as it becomes relevant in terms of what's happening with the data, some updates about the interim analysis when it's time to do that. Today, we're going to focus on some general updates about the study. We'll talk about the project launch timeline. We'll be talking about the laboratory procedures. Like we have with other webinars, we're going to be recording this and we'll put the recording up on the website. So if there are people who aren't able to make it, they can get the content that way. You can put comments or questions in the chat and we'll monitor those during the course of today's webinar. Obviously, we have a lot of content to cover in an hour, so we'll be going through and responding to some of those by the chat, and some of those will respond verbally. So I want to thank everybody for joining us today. We want to be respectful of your time and go ahead and get started. Anusha?
All right,
Welcome,
thanks
everybody.
everyone for joining. I'm gonna turn this over to Kavita. I'm gonna stop my share and Kav, go ahead and share your screen.
Okay, let me just call in with my phone really quick. Hold on.
We can hear you okay.
You can?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or not.
Sounds like we have some feedback. So if everybody else could mute yourself, everybody but Cov, that should take care of that.
Okay, am I clear to you guys?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to go briefly through the shipment collection and shipping. I want to just talk about the supply of checklists that you guys will receive, creating a subject identifier list at your site, how to collect, process, and store blood and the nasal swabs, how to fill out the requisition form, and then how to ship the materials. So this is a checklist of the items you will be receiving. The first item, the gold top SST tube, will not be provided to site. So you will have to use that at whatever your facility has 5 ml gold top SST tubes. You'll be getting labels, absorbent sheets, shipping boxes, these transport tubes, nasal swabs, a cardboard rack to store your specimens, and then these specimen bags. To create a subject identifier list, it would be good to create a spreadsheet with your participant's last name, first name, and then a subject identifier, which is a 4-digit number, which could be found in REDCap. So if you go into REDCap and you have these members that had joined in, their numbers on your spreadsheet, you would want to make sure to add a leading 0 because you wanted to make sure that it's all 4 digits. And that's how you determine your subject identifier. You could also use this spreadsheet to access the day they completed the survey and to figure out when they got their blood draw done. So in terms of blood collection, you want to make sure to fill out the label that we gave you with the identifier number for the participant and your site number. The site number for each site will actually be listed on the mock. And so each site will have their own site number. You're going to place that label on the gold tube. You're going to draw the blood, invert it gently 5 times, and then write the date of collection and time of collection on the tube. Make sure you do it in military time. And then let the tube sit upright for 30 minutes. Then you want to centrifuge the tube within 90 minutes of collection for approximately 10 minutes. You should just go by your site's standard procedures for processing. Just make sure that it's enough time so that the specimen separates into serum at the top and then the red blood cells at the bottom. And once it's separated, you want to grab one of the tubes that was sent by ARUP Laboratories and put this label again, a new label on it. Make sure it's all filled out with the same information that was from the gold top tube, and then pipette the serum into this transport tube. Next, you want to store the serum. The best option is to store it in a freezer in -20 or -70. Second option is to store it in the fridge, 2 to 6 degrees Celsius fridge. Can't be stored for more than 2 weeks. The serum can be left ambient for a maximum of 24 hours from the time it's being transferred. And then once you stick it in the fridge or the freezer, you can use these racks provided by ARUP and put all the serum tubes in one rack and the nasal tubes in a separate rack.
I'm sorry, Cov, 1 second. Can everyone please mute your line if you're not speaking? There's a lot of background noise. Thank you.
Okay, the nasal swab collection, the participant will be collecting this themselves, so you're just kind of giving them instructions on how to do this. So first, these are the kits that are provided by ARUP with the tube inside that has a little bit of media, and then there's a swab in here as well. So you're gonna make sure you fill out this label. You can go ahead and fill out the date and time since you're about to collect it, and then put it on the label. You'll give the swab to the participant, and you want to have them insert it straight up into either the right or left nair, about ½ an inch. I guess it's about 1 centimeter or so, ½ an inch to 1 inch straight up, and then where resistance is at the turbinate. And then you want to make sure they rotate it several times against their nasal wall. And then take the swab, put it in the container, make sure you mix it around with the media, and then break it off at the marking that's on the edge of the shaft there. And then just screw on the cap. The nasal swabs cannot be left ambient. So as soon as they're done being collected, you want to place them in ice or then in a cold pack. The best option is to, when you're about to store them, is to store them in a freezer, -20 or -70. Another option is to put them in the fridge, but they cannot be there for more than 2 days. And then also put it in the designated rack that you have in your freezer or fridge. This is the requisition form that we will be sending to you. I'm waiting for ARUP Lab to just pre-populate some of the fields, and then I'm going to be sending it to each site. You will get 2 of these spreadsheets. One is where you would list all the nasal swabs being shipped, and the other spreadsheet is for the serum. So make sure you're using the right spreadsheet for the right sample. And the spreadsheet is made up of 3 different tabs. And so I'm going to go through the 3 different tabs right now. The first tab is the client tab. This is already going to be pre-populated. This is what the tab looks like. Do not change anything on this form. You'll notice that it says the specimen type, in this example, it says serum. So you know that this is where you're going to list on the next tab the specimens that were serum. This is also where your client number is located. It's going to be the same for everyone in this study, which I have listed on later in the slides. The second tab is the patient tab. This is the tab that you're going to enter information in. So unfortunately, they're not allowing me to change some of these headers, even though they don't apply to us. So I'm listing out the directions here for you. It says first identifier, patient last name. In this box, you are going to put in the subject identifier that was on the swab. So that specific number, which you found from REDCap, which is a 4-digit number. The second identifier you're leaving blank. The third identifier, you can put your site number. So it'll be the same site number going down the whole list. This third tab is your collection date and time. And this is from the label. Make sure that if this is for serum, that you're only filling out the collection date and time for all the serum samples in this column. Gender, leave blank. Age, leave blank. Units, leave blank. The patient first name is going to be the site number. So both of these columns are going to be the same, and they're just going to be listed all the way down. Once you've listed however many you have ready to ship, whether it's 10 or 20 serum, you're going to hit this run button. When you hit the run, you might get this message. It just says standardization is complete. Check column I for errors, correct and rerun. It's kind of standard that you're going to get that, so you can just hit OK. If at any time you do hit run and you get these red error messages, I've seen it happen if, for example, you put in a collection date that is in the future. So you just want to make sure you check. It'll highlight the row that's red, which is the error. So just make sure you don't have any red error messages. And then once you hit run, the third tab, oh, actually, so this is an example of filling out this spreadsheet. So you grab your rack from the freezer with all the specimens. This is a serum rack. These are some of the examples of labels that were on each specimen. And so I filled it out, you know, patient 103, 104, 105. It's all the same site number for this column and this column. And then this is the date and time of collection, all written in military time. And the rest of the fields are blank. So I hit run, and the third tab creates, it's called a hard copy creator tab. And it basically is the page you're going to print and provide in your shipment. The age automatically defaults to 149. Don't worry about it because we're not collecting age. Everybody's going to have that on their spreadsheet. So once you've filled out the spreadsheet, and remember you're going to have two, one for all the nasal swabs and one for all the serum, you're going to save those spreadsheets, and you are going to email them to AREP Laboratories and the DCC on the day of shipment. Here are the emails that you're going to send it to. Send it to all three of these. In your subject email line, you want to just put in covered project, shipment site, and then insert your site number here. And then in the context of the email, just include your FedEx tracking number so they can make sure they receive it on time. Okay, so these are the instructions for shipping. I think most of you guys, some of your lab might be doing it, or if you have done shipping for, you know, biological substances, you kind of know these steps, but I will briefly go through them. You'll take your rack from the freezer. Now you want to make sure that these specimens, if you did keep them in the fridge, if you collected specimens that day, you kept them in the fridge and you're going to ship the same day, the specimens need to be in the freezer before you ship them for at least 5 hours. So you can't have any liquid being shipped. It should have already been frozen before you ship it. So just make a note of that, so you can't ship specimens the same day you collect it if they haven't been in the freezer long enough to be frozen. And I think at least 5 hours is good enough for it to be frozen. And when they're on the rack, it would be good for you to place them in chronological order of the shipping list that you printed. So, you know, if you have 30 samples listed, then, you know, you just want to make sure you have 20 listed here in order, and on the next rack, the other 10. And so they're all just in order of the spreadsheet. You'll put this entire, with the cardboard rack, inside this bag. They told me that they will be providing bags that are large enough to put the cardboard rack inside. And on this bag, you want to enter, there's space in the middle of the bag and at the top of the bag to write the date you are shipping, your client number, which is right here. It's also found on the first tab of that spreadsheet, and your specimen count. So if there's most of them are going to have 10. Unless you're shipping less than 10 in a bag, you should have 10 here. And then you can tear off this top portion for your records. You're going to place one absorbent sheet in the bag, and then you're going to print this list. If you have 3 bags with 10 samples of nasal swabs each, and this list has 30 in them, before you put it in each bag, I would highlight the 10 that are in the specific bag and put that list in the bag. So you'd have one list that shows 30 specimens, but you're highlighting the 10 that are in the specific bag. And you put the paper in the, there's actually a outside pouch. So don't put the paper in with the specimens, just in case the specimens leak. So you want to make sure it's in the outside pouch of the bag. These are the boxes. They're going to be sent to you by Therapack. Based on the size of this inside styrofoam, you should be able to fit 8 bags, which is about 80 specimens along the bottom of the box. So you might not have 80, you might have less. So it should be a large enough box to put a large number of specimens. Once you put all the specimens in there, you want to add dry ice. I would add a minimum of 15 and a maximum of 20 pounds of dry ice, and make sure they're pellets. You don't want a large block of dry ice. You want to make sure it's broken up, and make sure you have those, that 20 pounds should be enough to cover all the specimens so none of them are exposed. Then you're going to close the box and seal it with packing tape. On the outside of the box, these 2 stickers would have been provided as part of your supplies, and make sure you put them on one side of the box. This is how to fill out a dry ice label. I think most of you might know, or whoever's shipping should know. Here is the shipper's name and address, so that would be you. This is where the samples are going, and this is the information on where it's going. And then you want to convert how many pounds of dry ice and write it as a kilogram here. And then on here, you would write 1 package and then the number of kilograms of dry ice. We are sending pre-printed like FedEx labels that you'll be printing out. I am standardizing and putting 20 pounds of dry ice on all of them. So if you end up having less than 20 pounds, you can just cross it off that FedEx label and write the number of kilograms that you have. And then shipping, like I mentioned, we are collecting from each of you an email address on where I can email the FedEx labels. They will be shipped priority overnight. They will have our account numbers, so they're already charged to our FedEx account, and they will indicate that it's being shipped with dry ice. As soon as you get the labels, within 24 hours, you need to print all the labels and keep them at your site. Otherwise, apparently, they will not be able to be used if you don't print them within 24 hours. Once you print them, you can start using them one by one, and they're valid for 30 days from the day you receive them. So I probably will be doing this 3 times, one for the next 10 for the next 3 months. And then shipments should be sent to Arup Laboratories twice a week. You can ship on any day between Sunday to Thursday. That allows the lab to receive the samples only Monday through Friday. And I'm sure each of you guys know how FedEx works at your site. So just make sure you know what the FedEx pickup times are, what their cutoff times are. If you have a package all set up to be shipped and FedEx for some reason cannot come, or they miss the cutoff time, we've had that a lot happen to us at our site, you cannot leave the samples in the dry ice just sitting there for the next day. You either have to somehow get it to get dropped off, or you have to take everything out and stick it in the freezer. You can't leave it on dry ice and have them pick it up the next day. You'd have to repackage it tomorrow.
Kav, are these submitted overnight priority?
Yes, yes, they are priority overnight labels. And that.
There's another question in the chat about when 2 subjects have the same last name. And just to clarify, in that spreadsheet, you're not actually putting the last name, right? You're putting the participant ID number. Is that accurate?
In the spreadsheet that we're creating, we have the participant's last name and their first name and their subject identifier, all three.
And that's a spreadsheet for the site, right? The spreadsheet that goes to
That's
ARUP just has the subject ID number.
Exactly. Right.
All right, can you guys see my slides? Of your we're getting feedback on your end.
Okay.
All right. Sorry about that, guys. Cov, there's still feedback coming from your end. All right. Still hear myself. Okay. All right. Everyone see my slides? Yes?
Yes.
All right, just so everyone knows so what Cov just went over, all those lab procedures are going to be put into a document. We've sent you a version of that, an earlier version of that last week, and we'll be updating those and posting those on the website probably tomorrow. So you'll be able to download and access those, and then this call will also be posted on the website, so you'll have access to go back and get that information, because I know that was a lot in a little time. And then, of course, you can always reach out to us with any questions. All right, I wanted to give you guys an update on how things are going. You know, I don't know if you guys remember this, but we did our kickoff call 2.5 weeks ago. So this is what we've accomplished since then. So we have IRB sign off on all sites at this point. Subcontracts, actually, that was yesterday. I heard back from 2 more sites. So we have subcontracts fully executed actually from 11 sites as of today. And then we've completed site readiness calls with 19 out of the 20 sites. Our last one is tomorrow. So thank you guys for scheduling those quickly, being on, being available, staying up with your contracts folks, and helping us get to this point. We're getting ready to launch, and I know yesterday in my update I noted that the lab supplies were delayed another couple days. So the plan at this point is to still launch the study at University of Iowa tomorrow, and then bring on the remaining sites next week, and as you get your subcontracts executed. I just wanted to give you a heads up about the laboratory supplies you'll be receiving. They're not all coming from one place. So I wanted to give you, let you know that there's going to be 4 shipments coming, plus that email with FedEx labels that Kavita just spoke to you about. So you know that ARUP Lab is going to be sending shipment out with the kits. They are going out on Monday, last we heard. The labels, the shipping labels are coming. They were actually shipped yesterday and today, and the shipping boxes are being shipped today. I think they were shipped